Battle of LSU quarterbacks last night, but it was a Joe Burrow show for him and the Bengals. He definitely shined against the Commanders. Played 3 possessions for Cincy, completing 9 of 14 passes, and that strike there, along with 62 yards. But that one there, the dime to Charlie Jones. Joe, after the game, said those are just incredibly valuable reps that usually work out those kinks in the first couple of weeks. Taking a look at it this preseason, he's been dominant. I'm just going to put it out there. Those 3 possessions, though, 9 completions, 62 passing yards. But when it comes to the 2 performances we've seen from him, and also leading the way, since he has scored a touchdown in 4 or 5 possessions. So Joe seems like he's ready to roll. When it comes to others there, I want to bring in my guy, Carthon, and you talk about Cincinnati. We know the offense is good. They paid everybody. But there's a problem on the opposite side. A guy that's been in street clothes all summer long, Trey Hendrickson there. When you think about this, is it going to give either way on his side or the Bengals? Because you can't go into what that defense looked like last night and last season without your top guy.
Well, the first thing I'll say is this is just the Bengals doing Bengals things. When it comes down to getting these negotiations done, they drive a hard bargain. That just is what it is. But I think in the perfect scenario, you get Trey Hendrickson done, and it's a deal that's happy, that makes everyone on both sides happy. But in the grand scheme of things, this is bad messaging, right? This guy's been their most productive and has been the best player on a defense that has underperformed, and yet you're not taking care of him. So this sends a bad message throughout the locker room for the young guys that are coming up, that are playing hard, that are being productive, and it leads guys in the locker room to think if they're doing this to Trey, then how are they going to do me when my time comes?
Speaking of trades, if you're another GM out there and looking like, you know what, I could use a pass rusher of his talent, if you're looking at this, are you making calls? Are you just waiting till they call you? How are you operating here when you see a situation like this, and also the one in Dallas with Micah Parsons?
Yeah, the first thing you want to do is you want to be aggressive. You want to be aggressive, and you want to put out the filler, and you want to call over there and see, you know, what's their appetite for actually trading him. So if you're a team like New England, if you're a team like Washington, you're reaching out to have those conversations with Cincinnati in particular to see, are they indeed looking to move him? Because if you're New England, you know you have the cap space and you really have the need for him. And Washington also has a need, but I want to throw in there with Terry McLaurin. That's the tricky thing with Washington reaching out, because you have to try to get Terry McLaurin done first, because these 2 guys want about the same amount of money, and Trey Hendrickson is actually a year older than McLaurin. So you talk about messaging again, it'll be such bad messaging to trade for Trey Hendrickson, get a deal done before you get Terry McLaurin done.
I want to go to the Commanders because you just brought up Terry McLaurin. That's something we got to discuss because he's seeking 33 per year. He's kind of saying he's comparable to what DK Metcalf has done in terms of production and also the money that he got in Pittsburgh. When you hear that and you know he's the #1 guy for Jaden Daniels, how are you operating there in that front office?
Well, the tricky part for getting this deal done is the age, just the age and the history of the position, and when guys start to decline at that age. And if I think DK is around 26, 27 years old, so he's younger. He's considerably younger than Terry McLaurin, and I think he does have an argument. I've always felt that the deal would come in around 32 to 32 and a half, because that's that's a little bit north of what the franchise tag would be if he were to play this year out and they were to franchise tag him. So, I mean, listen, guys are going to always come in high. They're going to always want to be priced near the top of the market. But it's just like the housing market. You may not want to pay what you pay for your house, but the market's going to dictate what you have to pay to get something done.
Real quick, Grant, if you're in that front office there, if you're David Peterson in terms of Washington and you're looking to put a pen to paper, are you waiting till week 1 or are you getting this done this week?
No, you're locking it in, and the tea leaves are out there. I mean, Terry McLaurin returned to practice, or doing things which he hadn't been. It was a hold-in situation. So typically, when you see things like that start to happen, you know that they're pretty close, and this is just a show of good faith on his side to get things rolling.
I want to stay with the Commanders and Brian Robinson. He did not play once again, of course, in week 2 for the Commanders there. Held out, looking for maybe a deal or to get dealt away from the Commanders. How do you handle that situation if you're in that front office?
Well, this is one when it was first brought to me, I knew that this was a quiet thing from Brian Robinson and his agents to get something done. They've definitely reached out. He's a young guy. that's had 700 yards rushing in 3 straight seasons, has never broke that 1,000-yard barrier. So it's one of those deals where I'm pretty sure they value him, they love him in that organization. But how do you pay a guy that has never broken the 1,000-yard mark, and what is that market going to be? And again, you have more pressing needs in terms of getting Terry McLaurin done, and you kind of have a crowded backfield right now in Washington, which I'm pretty sure they're going to take the committee approach. And so they'll likely look to get him moved if this is going to create such a problem for him. And again, I hate to harp on it this way, but he's a young guy who has yet to eclipse the 1,000-yard barrier, where he doesn't fall in those categories of, say, a Kyron Williams or a James Cook.
8 TDs and 799 yards in 2024. I want to go to Indy because you still have 2 QBs battling for one spot in Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. Some may say you go to Daniel Jones because he has the experience, but others may say Anthony Richardson because you took him so high in the draft. If you're Shane Steichen, which way are you going here for week 1?
Well, I'll start with this, Brandon. Whoever starts his next preseason game was going to be the starter, pretty much, right? That's what I believe. I've been saying for a while that it was Daniel Jones was in the driver's seat just because of the amount of time that Anthony Richardson has missed just this offseason. Let's forget about last year, but he's missed a lot of time this offseason, which gave Daniel Jones a lot more time with these receivers to build a rapport. However, Daniel Jones hasn't stepped in and really just taken hold of the spot. And so with that said, I do believe now that Anthony Richardson, because of his draft status, and Shane Steichen and GM Chris Ballard taking him in at 4th overall, I think he'll get the early nod to look, because you know at the end of the day what you have in Daniel Jones, and if he has to come in and play as the backup.
All right, Rand, this one is important because, you know, I've asked Emery, Leger, and Ryan Wilson and Pete each year, I need your day 1 starters. Now, when you say this, it's going to be taped, and it's out there. Rookies, I need to know your rookie starters day 1.
All right, so I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path here. We know about Travis Hunter. We know about Abdul Carter. We know those guys. But as you can see here on the graphic, I'm going with Matthew Golden out of Green Bay just because of what he can bring to that offense as the X receiver. And then Carson Schlesinger, he's been lighting it up all training camp and practices with Cleveland. And people expect him to just be the guy to step in. He's going to be their Mike backer. He's going to be a Will backer and some sub stuff. He's going to lead that team in tackles. If he stays healthy, he's going to lead the team in tackles. I'll go out on the limb and say I guarantee that. And then the guy for me is 4th-round pick Dante Thornton out of the University of Tennessee in this Raiders offense. This Raiders offense with Chip Kelly, they're going to push the ball vertically downfield, and just digging a little bit deeper from 2022 to 2024, according to PFF, Geno Smith has the highest, he's been the highest graded quarterback in terms of deep passes, and he's almost has a perfect grade with a 99.9. So I expect to see Dante Thornton getting a lot of deep shots in this Raiders offense.
Yeah, one of those 4-2, 4-3 guys we saw in week 1 lining up there, as you mentioned there with the Raiders. As always, Rand Carthon, appreciate your time breaking it down when it comes to everything in the NFL. That just means we are getting closer to Sundays, and what that means, Count on Sundays returns back in our life here. September 7th. Can't wait to see it. All your games right there when you need it. It's been so long. You can watch your local games live on CBS. Don't forget, on Mondays, we'll have you covered on the Morning Buzz. And then also Paramount Plus. Watch it. It is back, people.